Welcome to Starz Recapped. Today, I'm going to explain a heartbreaking yet powerful South Korean crime drama movie titled Hope, which was released in 2013. Spoiler alert, this movie contains emotionally intense scenes, so please watch with caution and stay sharp. The story begins with a kite gliding effortlessly above a lively city, floating freely wherever the wind takes it. Beneath this calm sky lives an 8-year-old girl named So-won, also called Son. She's curious, bright, and wise beyond her years. Every day she walks to school with her best friend, a boy named Suk. One morning, as Son is getting ready for school, she asks her mother to fix her hair. Her mom, busy with household chores, is unable to help. Seeing this, her father steps in. A small but touching gesture that hints at the family's deep love. Just as Son is about to leave, it begins to rain. Her mother offers to drop her off, but Son, noticing how busy she is, insists she can make it on her own in just 3 minutes. Her mother reminds her to take the main road, which is safer. Son heads out, but by the time she arrives, her classmates have already gone inside. As she approaches the school, a mysterious man watches her from a distance. Suddenly, the peaceful tone shifts. The same kite from earlier is now lying broken on the wet ground. The man picks it up and walks over to Son. He compliments her umbrella and asks if they can share it. Son politely refuses, saying she's in a hurry. She turns toward the school. It's just a few steps away. But the area is eerily quiet due to the heavy rain. Then everything shatters. Her umbrella is torn. Her belongings are strewn across the pavement, and little Son is found, shivering, hurt, and terrified. With every ounce of strength, she reaches for her phone and calls for help. Moments later, an ambulance arrives, sirens wailing, and rushes Son to the hospital. When her mother sees her tiny body, bruised, bloodied, and broken, she collapses in grief. Son has been viciously assaulted, not just physically, but in the cruelest, most inhumane way possible. The doctors rush her into emergency surgery. Somehow, despite the horror she's endured, Son is still alive. The medical team delivers crushing news. In order to save her life, they had to remove much of her intestines and rectum, replacing them with an ostomy bag. This bag, they explain, will now be a permanent part of her body. It's a life-altering change, one no child should ever have to live with. Her parents are left speechless, broken, and drowning in sorrow. When Son finally regains consciousness, her father rushes to her side. In her faint voice, she asks, "Appa, didn't you go to work today?" He chokes up. That one innocent question cuts deeper than any blade. He feels like he failed her, failed to protect the little girl who means everything to him. Then Son says something that freezes him in place. "Please catch the man who hurt me. He wore pants with lots of pockets." Though her body is frail, her will is unshaken. Son, just 8 years old, is thinking like a warrior, calm, clear, determined to bring her attacker to justice. Her dad urges her to rest, but she resists. She's scared that if she falls asleep, she'll forget important details. Finally, exhaustion takes over, and she drifts off. Outside the room, her parents get word from the police. They've identified a suspect. Son's father rushes to the station, ready to confront him, but the officer informs him that they can't make an arrest yet. The evidence is thin. They need Son's testimony to proceed. When he shares this with his wife, she breaks down. The thought of making Son revisit her trauma is unbearable. A painful argument erupts between them, each overwhelmed, each heartbroken. They're not just fighting with each other, they're fighting with the weight of a tragedy no parent is ever prepared for. As emotions boil over, a police officer approaches Son's father with an unusual request. Go home and bring back all of Son's toys. Confused, the father asks why. The officer explains that a female child psychologist has been assigned to Son's case. She believes that surrounding Son with familiar objects, her toys, her comfort items, might help coax her to speak without fear. Though unsure, Son's father agrees to the officer's request. He's willing to do anything that might help his daughter recover, even a little. He returns home and gently searches through Son's belongings. Among her toys, he finds her most cherished companion, Kokong, a small stuffed toy she never went anywhere without. Holding it close, he returns to the hospital, carrying more than just a toy, but a fragment of Son's comfort and innocence. At the hospital, the child psychologist finally arrives. Soft-spoken and kind, she begins her session by playing with Son, building trust one small step at a time. She then gives Son Kokong, and for the first time since the attack, a faint smile appears on the little girl's face. It's small, but it's a sign, a glimmer of the light still burning inside her. As Son begins to feel safer, the psychologist starts to ask her questions. Meanwhile, officers observe the session through a camera, carefully recording every word and expression. Then comes the most crucial part. The psychologist lays out a series of photographs, asking Son to look at each one. When the photo of the suspect appears, Son's reaction is instant and chilling. She shuts her eyes tightly, as if trying to erase the image from her mind. The psychologist notices her instincts tell her they may have found the right man. She follows up with a photo lineup, a set of smaller pictures. "If you see the man who hurt you," she says gently, "just point to him." Son's tiny hand trembles, her face tense with fear and memory. And then, slowly, hesitantly, she lifts her finger and points, right at the man who destroyed her innocence. The room goes still. That one gesture changes everything. With Son's positive identification, the police finally have the evidence they need to arrest the monster who committed this crime. Before leaving, the psychologist sits with Son's father. She speaks with warmth and wisdom, explaining that the road to healing will be long. Physical wounds can be treated with medicine, but emotional scars take time and love to mend. "You must be present," she tells him, "as a father, as a family. She needs all of you." She hands him her business card, offering support whenever they may need it. But just then, Son's mother overhears the conversation. Her grief, still raw, still boiling, erupts. Overwhelmed by pain and rage, she walks up, snatches the card, and returns it coldly to the psychologist. "We don't need help," she says with trembling anger. "We'll handle it ourselves." Her words sting, but they reveal the devastating weight she carries. A mother's helplessness, wrapped in fierce, unspoken love. Meanwhile, the rapist is finally apprehended. As the news spreads, it sparks public outrage and captures media attention nationwide. Journalists swarm the hospital, eager to sensationalize the tragedy. Cameras flash, microphones crowd the entrance. It's no longer a private nightmare. It's becoming a national headline. When Son's father hears about the media frenzy, he rushes back in panic. He knows what the press is capable of, how they can twist grief into spectacle, how their questions and cameras could re-traumatize his already fragile daughter. Hospital staff try to relocate Son to a quieter room, but the reporters push forward. Seeing the chaos, Son's father lifts her gently onto his shoulders, shielding her small body from the flashing lights, and carries her away to a more secluded room on the top floor. But even in his arms, Son is terrified. Her little voice trembles as she asks, "Appa, did I do something wrong?" Her father holds back tears, assuring her that none of this is her fault. "No, sweetheart, never. You did nothing wrong." Then the unimaginable happens. The ostomy bag that collects her waste suddenly bursts, spilling its contents on the bed. Without hesitation, her father leaps into action, cleaning up quickly and trying to replace the bag. But as he opens her clothing to fix it, Son's body freezes. Her eyes widen. Her breathing quickens. She's not in the room anymore. She's back in the moment of the assault. Panic overtakes her. She begins to scream and push him away. At first, her father is confused, but then the truth hits him. Even his touch now terrifies her. He steps back slowly, his hands trembling, devastated by the realization that the trauma has cut deeper than he imagined. His presence, once her safe place, now triggers fear. Later that evening, he returns quietly to her room, but the moment Son sees him, she pulls the blanket over herself, hiding away. The sight crushes him. Still, he speaks gently, carefully. "Your mom isn't feeling well, so she might not visit for a while, and soon you'll have a baby brother." Son says nothing. Her silence speaks volumes. He knows why she's afraid. He knows what that morning did, but he doesn't let his heartbreak show. Instead, he offers her a quiet reassurance. "You don't need to hide from me, Son." Then, without waiting for a reply, he turns and silently walks out, carrying the weight of a broken father. As days pass, another burden begins to grow. The hospital bills. They pile up faster than he can manage. Desperate and exhausted, Son's father turns to the one person he trusts, a close friend and colleague, who stood by him through thick and thin. Without a moment's hesitation, his friend offers help. "Don't worry about work. I'll cover for you. Just stay with your daughter." It's a small lifeline in a storm, but sometimes that's all a person needs to keep going. A few days later, the court hearing for the man who assaulted Son is finally held. All eyes are on the accused, a man who stands cold and emotionless before the judge. When questioned, he denies everything. He calmly claims that he had been working a night shift at a construction site, returned home afterward, drank heavily, and went to sleep. I don't know anything about what happened, he insists with a straight face. But the police are prepared. They present conclusive forensic evidence. They reveal that traces of Sohn's blood were found on his clothes. Even more damning, the soil found on his shoes matches the dirt at the exact crime scene. Cornered, the man changes his story. He now claims that his shoes had been stolen, only to mysteriously reappear outside his house just before his arrest. He accuses the police of framing him, saying he's a victim of corruption. The courtroom falls silent for a moment, then tension explodes. Among those seated is Sohn's father's close friend, the same man who helped him through the toughest days. Unable to contain his rage, he stands up, removes his own shoe, and hurls it at the accused. "You're a disgrace to humanity," he shouts, his voice filled with fury and disgust. Chaos erupts. Court officers rush in to restrain him. The hearing is temporarily halted as order is restored. But in that single act of defiance, the pent-up grief and anger of an entire community is laid bare. Back at the hospital, Sohn's father returns, emotionally drained. But when he walks into her room, he's caught off guard. Sohn is smiling, even laughing, a rare and beautiful sound. A group of people in colorful cartoon costumes dance and perform for her. One looks like a panda, another like a bear, their giant heads wobbling with every move. To his surprise, he realizes it's his wife, her friend, and a nurse inside the suits. They're doing everything they can to bring joy back to their daughter's world. It turns out the idea came from the psychologist, the same woman who had gently helped Sohn identify her attacker. After her initial refusal, Sohn's mother reached out to her again, realizing that her daughter needed more than just medicine. She needed laughter. She even went so far as to rent the costumes herself to make it happen. Sohn's father, deeply moved, steps outside and approaches the shop owner who provided the suits. "How much does it cost to rent one costume for a day?" he asks quietly. The owner replies, $200. His face falls. He checks his wallet. He doesn't have that much. Still, he doesn't walk away. Would it be okay, he asks humbly, if I paid in installments? Hearing Sohn's father's humble request, the costume shop owner pauses for a moment. He can see the exhaustion on the man's face, the worry lines, the dark circles, the quiet desperation. Understanding the situation, the owner softens his tone. "Take the Kokong costume," he says gently. "No charge, just bring it back when you're done." Overwhelmed with gratitude, Sohn's father bows deeply, unable to find the words to say thank you. That evening, dressed head to toe in the fluffy Kokong costume, Sohn's father enters her hospital room. Sohn looks up, and her face transforms. Her eyes widen. Her sadness melts away. With a radiant smile, she leaps into Kokong's arms, hugging him tightly, her little arms wrapping around the oversized costume. "Kokong! You came!" For the first time in weeks, the room fills with genuine laughter, the sound of a child rediscovering joy. The next morning, the psychologist sits with Sohn by her bedside. The two have grown closer, and their conversations feel more like those between friends. As they chat, the psychologist gently says, "You know, summer break is almost over. A new school term is starting soon. Do you think you'd like to go back?" But Sohn's cheerful mood vanishes in an instant. She shakes her head firmly. "No, everyone knows what happened to me. They'll laugh or feel sorry for me. I don't want that." Then her voice softens. She says she feels guilty that her parents haven't been to work in so long. The hospital bills must be huge. I don't want them to suffer because of me. She admits she misses school, her friends, and her normal routine, but the thought of facing the world again fills her with dread. 2 days later, Sohn is finally discharged from the hospital. Her parents arrive to take her home, but there's still a distance between Sohn and her father. She doesn't make eye contact, doesn't speak. Understanding her discomfort, he gently sets up a small curtain in the car, separating her seat from his. Not out of coldness, but out of compassion. As they drive home, they pass the very alley where the tragedy took place. Suddenly, Sohn clutches her stomach. Her breathing quickens, her face turns pale. Seeing her panic, her father presses hard on the accelerator, quickly speeding past the area. No words are spoken, but the silence says everything. When they finally arrive home, Sohn opens the car door and immediately begins to vomit. Her mother rushes to her side. But then, something catches their eyes. On the wall outside their small family shop is a beautiful surprise. a mural of handwritten messages and drawings from Sone's classmates, brightly colored notes filled with love, encouragement, and support. "We miss you, Sone. Come back soon. You're the bravest girl we know." Sone reads the notes, her eyes welling up, but this time not with sadness. For the first time since the incident, a true, unguarded smile lights up her face. The next morning, a young boy stands nervously outside their home. It's young Suk, Sone's best friend from school. He knocks, then asks to speak with her father. When they sit down, Suk's voice trembles. "Uncle, I'm sorry. If I had walked with Son that day, maybe nothing would have happened." He begins to cry. Tears of guilt, confusion, and helplessness. Son's father places a comforting hand on his shoulder. "It's not your fault, son. It was never your fault." The two sit in silence, two hearts broken in different ways, finding strength in one another. Son's father sits beside young Suk, gently placing a hand on the boy's shoulder. "It's not your fault, son. Don't ever blame yourself." Young Suk sniffles, wiping away his tears. Though his sorrow still lingers, Son's father's words offer him the first bit of relief he's felt in days. Later, Son receives a bundle of colorful get-well cards from her classmates. Sweet drawings, funny messages, and scribbled hearts fill the pages. Each note feels like a little hug. Encouraged by the kindness, Son finally agrees to return to school. The next morning, her aunt accompanies her, holding her hand as they walk through the school gate. But as they enter, Son begins to grow anxious. She feels the uncomfortable presence of the ostomy bag beneath her clothes. What if someone notices? What if they ask? What will she say? Then she sees it. A few classmates whispering and glancing at her. Son's eyes start to water. But just as the fear begins to overwhelm her, Kokomong appears. Bounding across the playground, the red costumed figure waves both arms, doing a silly dance that makes the children laugh. Son's eyes light up. She runs toward Kokong, her dad, and hugs him tightly. The fear fades. The smile returns. Over the following days, Son's father continues to escort her to school in the Kokong costume. No matter how hot it gets, no matter how tired he feels, he even speaks with the school principal, requesting that Son be kept away from male staff for now, to help her feel safer until she's ready. And to further ease her anxiety, he comes up with a clever idea. He buys Son a small waste pouch, filling it with chocolates. If your friends ask what it is, he tells her, just say it's your candy bag. The next morning, when her classmates ask about the pouch, Son grins. "It's full of chocolates," she says confidently. "Want one?" She shares the treats with her friends as she walks hand in hand with young Suk, Kokomong trailing playfully behind them. That afternoon, Son begins to grow suspicious. Every time she talks to Kokomong, he doesn't reply. "Kokong, are you my dad?" No answer. She tugs him along to her mom's shop and whispers the question again. This time, her mother gently removes the costume's mask, revealing her dad soaked in sweat, his face red from the heat. Son stares at him. Then slowly, she steps forward and wipes the sweat from his face with her sleeve. "You don't have to wear the costume anymore," she says softly. "I know it's you." Her father smiles weakly, eyes glistening. The wall that had formed between them begins to crumble. Later that night, Son's father receives a call from the police. The officer's voice is grim. The case is weakening. The accused is claiming mental instability. He's filed a petition. We may need Son to testify in court. Shocked and angry, Son's father slams the phone down. No, not again. Not her. With no other option, he pays a visit to the jail. There, across the table in the visitor's room, sits the man who destroyed his daughter's life. "You've got the wrong guy." The man smirks. "Only an animal would do something like that." He leans forward. "But listen, once I'm out, I'll make it up to you. I don't have money now, but tell me what you want. I'll pay." Son's father stares at him, his fists trembling. He's not mentally unstable. He remembers everything. Then, the rapist narrows his eyes. "You know, prison doesn't last forever. And when I'm out, who knows what might happen again." The room falls silent. But Son's father doesn't flinch. "You'll never see the outside again," he says quietly. "And if you do, I'll be waiting." Filled with fury at the rapist's words, Son's father loses control. He grabs the nearest metal chair and violently smashes it against the jail's glass barrier, shattering it in a burst of rage before the guards rush in to restrain him. The courtroom is packed as the trial reconvenes. This time, Son is called to the stand. Trembling, she walks forward, but with her father and mother watching anxiously, she gathers strength. She looks the man in the eyes and identifies him as her attacker. The room goes silent. Finally, the judge delivers the verdict. Guilty. But then comes the sentencing. 12 years in prison. Only 12. Gasps fill the room. Whispers turn into shouts. The entire courtroom erupts in outrage. Son's father, shaking with rage, lunges toward the rapist, ready to end it himself. But just before he can strike, Son grabs his arm. "Please, Appa, let's go home." Those soft words break the storm inside him. Tears streaming down his face, he drops his fists and pulls Son into a fierce embrace. A new chapter begins. Son's mother has given birth to a baby boy, and Son now has a little brother. She cradles him in her arms, smiling, genuinely for the first time in what feels like forever. For a while, life begins to feel normal again. But underneath, the scars remain. Son still struggles. Some days she leaves school early. Some nights the nightmares return. But the birth of her brother gives her something new. Hope, a reason to keep going. A light in the darkness. This story shines a light on the deep pain some people carry. A pain that lingers, sometimes forever. But it also reminds us that with love, support, and a little hope, healing, though slow, is always possible. So guys, what did you think of the movie Hope? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. And if you found this story powerful or moving, leave a like, share it, and subscribe for more deep and emotional movie explanations like this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.